Just a quick drop to the ground and congratulations, you're born. Except for the plot twist. You've come into the world screaming in the dry hills of Kerioth, a Judean backwater where the sun scorches the earth and hope is as scarce as shade. The air is thick with dust, making your new lungs cry, and the bleating of goats is your first lullaby. Your name is Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, a name once meaning praise in the holy tongue, but one day it's gonna wiggle through history like a serpent's hiss, spat from the lips of generations as a curse, not as a blessing. You've been born under Rome's iron heel, where taxes choke the poor and the promise of a messiah is the only thing keeping your people from cracking. Tough luck, kid, you're not him. Your childhood is a blur of thorns and sweat. Kerioth's olive groves are your playground. They're twisted branches reaching for the sky like scared hands asking for help. Your father, a merchant with a face like dry, cracked leather, teaches you to count coins before you can count stars, talking low about Roman tax collectors who would steal sandals from the dead. Your mother, eyes fierce with faith, drills the Torah into you, stories of prophets, of kings, and a deliverer who will crush Rome's eagles. Jerusalem's close, its temple a golden beacon, but so are the whispers about the scarce, the secret fighters who fight Rome with knives and fear. You're no blade-wielding zealot, though. You're the kid who tallies the cost of rebellion and wonders if it's really worth all the blood. By the time you're grown, Judea is a mess, ready to explode. Herod's sons run things like greedy little dogs, and everybody's whispering about salvation. And then, one day, you hear about Jesus, a carpenter from Nazareth who's got crowds buzzing and pulls off tricks that break all of the rules. His name feels like a glaze of light, and you start to search for him. You find him in Capernaum, a fishing village by the Sea of Galilee, where the water sparkles under a brutal sun and the air's heavy with fish, sweat, and hunger. Now this place is packed. Beggars, fishermen, starry-eyed hopefuls, all shouting over the gulls. And Jesus? He's up on a hill, his voice clear and sharp, talking about a kingdom where the nobodies come out on top. You're not buying it, not really. Pretty words, but Rome's got swords and shields. Then he grabs a kid's lunch, a few loaves and some fish, and somehow feeds thousands. Bread stacks up like a taxman's haul. Fish piles higher than your doubts, and the crowd goes wild, scarfing it down, while you stand there, jaw dropped, crumbs on your shirt. Next, he touches a leper, and the guy's skin clears like magic. His eyes steady like a quiet morning, but burning with something that twists your gut. You feel a spark, hope you didn't know that you could feel, a fire screaming that Rome's done for. When he looks right at you, his stare like a blade, he says to follow him, one of 12 to carry his fight. All of a sudden, you felt happy because you knew you were one of the chosen ones. And now, life was gonna change. You ditched Kerioth's dirt without a second thought, heart racing with dreams of Rome's banners torn down and soldiers running. You're Judas Iscariot, the only Judean in a crew of Galilean fishermen who reek of nets and big ideas. And you're ready to see an empire fall. But here's the kicker. These guys with their thick accents and blind trust eye you like you're a tax collector crashing their party. You're the outsider, and that fire in your chest already feels like it's flickering. They hand you the money bag, a ragged pouch of denarii to keep the group fed and clothed. Great, you're the treasurer for a dozen dreamers who think planning means praying for tomorrow's bread. The Gospels will later whisper that you dipped into the coins, pocketing a few for yourself. Who knows, maybe you did. Who wouldn't in that economy, right? Come on. Every innkeeper is asking for money, and Peter's cloak needs fixing again. But that bag feels like a heavy chain around your neck. Every clink reminds you of how little you have and how far away the kingdom Jesus promised really is. You're not Peter, swearing loyalty like it's a blood oath, or John, gazing at Jesus like he's the sunrise. You're Judas, the Judean who counts the cost and calls him rabbi, which means a guru, but not Lord. Life with Jesus is like walking through dust while feeling unsure and tired. You tramp across Judea, sandals splitting, sleeping in fields where the stars mock your empty stomach. You eat what's given. Stale bread, sour wine, fish that smells like regret from Saturday night. Jesus is a marvel. He still storms with a word, raises the dead like it's Tuesday, walks on water while you're stuck rowing. But he's not rallying an army. No swords, no siege, just endless talk of love, forgiveness, and a kingdom not of this world. You're thinking, hey Rabbi, love's great, but can it pay the tax man or gut a centurion? The Pharisees circle like hungry vultures, waiting to strike. The Sadducees sharpen their sharp pins ready to trap you. And Rome, its dark shadow grows closer and closer, closing in on every step you take. This isn't exactly the savior that you had hoped for. It's a storm you never saw coming. Jesus calls you friend, but you feel like the odd sheep in his group. When Mary from Bethany pours expensive oil on his feet, you lose your temper. That money could have fed the poor for a whole year, you shout, thinking about the silver it could bring. Jesus stops you cold. She's getting me ready for when I die. You will always have the poor. Die? Great, Rabbi. Thanks for the cheer. The others nod like it's deep, but you've had enough of pretending. He talks about pain, a cross, and coming back someday, and you wonder if he's gone crazy. The leaders are making plans too, and they've got money to pay for it. You start thinking hard. Maybe pushing him will make him act like a king, or maybe you just want out. You see, Jerusalem at Passover is a tinderbox, pilgrims, soldiers, and enough tension to spark a war. You've already slipped into the shadows, meeting the chief priests in their marble halls. What'll you give me to hand him over, you ask, voice low. They toss you 30 pieces of silver, the price of a busted slave. Wow, big spenders. That'll buy me half a donkey? But you take it, promising to deliver Jesus when the crowds are gone. Deal is Dunskies. And then one day at the Passover meal, the room's warm with bread and wine, but your heart's colder than a tomb. Jesus washes your feet with calm hands, but you pull back. Your rough, hard skin tells the story of your mistakes. He says, one of you will betray me. The others gasp, but you feel his gaze like a blade. He dips bread, hands it to you. Do it fast, Judas. You're out the door before the wine's gone flat, the night's swallowing you whole. And get this, Maine, the olive trees twist like old sins. Jesus prays, his face wet with sweat. You walk at the front, leading a crowd of soldiers, temple guards, and some helpers of the priests. You kiss his cheek, the signal, and mutter, Rabbi. He looks at you. A kiss, Judas? That's your grand exit? Ooh, straight to the soul. Well, the guards sees him. Peter flails a sword like he's chopping firewood, and Jesus, calm as ever, heals the ear Peter lops off. You melt into the dark, because sticking around for the riot sounds like a one-way trip to the cross. For you, the job's done. But then the guilt hits hard, like a Roman whip. You hear that Jesus was whipped, found guilty, and nailed up like a bad man. You rush to the leaders, throwing the silver coins at their proud faces. I betrayed innocent blood, you shout. They just shrug. Meh, not our problem. Great, guys. Thanks for caring. The coins shine like their mean eyes. You run away to a field called Akeldama, the field of blood. Now, Matthew says you find a rope and hang yourself. Your shame too heavy to carry. Acts says that you bought the field and fell, your guts spilling out like a warning. Either way, it's a pretty dark ending. No cheers, no light. Your name is a curse now, spat by widows and whispered in prayers. Akeldama's your legacy, bought with your blood money. The disciples pick Matthias to take your place in the 12, like you were a dirty spot on their sandals. John's gospel says Satan rode shotgun, that you were a thief from the start. But Jesus chose you, and he knew that you would sell him out and still broke bread with you. You saw him heal, you heard him love, you felt his kingdom brush your fingertips. You could have stayed, you could have believed, but you chose the silver, the kiss, the end. But you're not a puppet. You chose your path coin by coin until the kiss sealed your fate. The priests used you. Rome didn't care, but Jesus still called you friend. Your story is a warning in the Bible. You are Judas Iscariot, the man who sold the Savior for a small price and a lonely end. As the rope tightens or the ground comes up, you wonder if you ever really knew him. the truth hurts. You are just a man, good with money, but weak in faith, lost in a story that was far too big for you to comprehend.